Matthew chapter 11. And it came to pass, when Jesus had made an end of commanding his 12 disciples, he departed thence to teach and to preach in their cities. Now when John had heard in the prison the works of Christ, he sent 2 of his disciples, and said unto him, Art thou he that should come, or do we look for another? Jesus answered and said unto them, Go and show John again those things which ye do hear and see. The blind receive their sight, and the lame walk. The lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear. The dead are raised up, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. And blessed is he whosoever shall not be offended in me. And as they departed, Jesus began to say unto the multitudes concerning John, What went ye out into the wilderness to see? A reed shaken with the wind? But what went ye out for to see? A man clothed in soft raiment? Behold, they that wear soft clothing are in kings' houses. But what went ye out for to see? A prophet? Yea, I say unto you, and more than a prophet. For this is he of whom it is written, Behold, I send my messenger before thy face, which shall prepare thy way before thee. Verily I say unto you, among them that are born of women, there hath not risen a greater than John the Baptist. Notwithstanding, he that is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. And from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent take it by force. For all the prophets and the law prophesied until John. And if ye will receive it, this is Elias, which was for to come. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. But whereunto shall I liken this generation? It is like unto children sitting in the markets, and calling unto their fellows, and saying, We have piped unto you, and ye have not danced. We have mourned unto you, and ye have not lamented. For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say he hath a devil. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, Behold, a man gluttonous, and a winebibber, a friend of publicans and sinners. But wisdom is justified of her children. Then began he to upbraid the cities wherein most of his mighty works were done, because they repented not. Woe unto thee, Chorazin! Woe unto thee, Bethsaida! For the mighty works which were done in you had been... For if the mighty works which were done in you had been done in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. But I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for Tyre and Sidon at the day of judgment than for you. And thou, Capernaum, which art exalted unto heaven, shall be brought down to hell. For if the mighty works which have been done in thee had been done in Sodom, it would have remained until this day. But I say unto you that it shall be more tolerable for the land of Sodom in the day of judgment than for thee. And that time Jesus answered and said, I thank thee, O Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because thou hast hid these things from the wise and prudent, and hast revealed them unto babes. Even so, Father, for so it seemed good in thy sight. All things are delivered unto me of my Father, and no man knoweth the Son but the Father, neither knoweth any man the Father save the Son, and he to whomsoever the Son will reveal him. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. Matthew chapter 11 begins with talking about John the Baptist, and at this point in time, he's in prison. And what he says, just the way that John in particular asks Jesus, Art thou he that should come, or do we look for another? It's just an interesting way how he kind of is just subtly implying that just things that I get from that is that John is pretty sure that Jesus is the Messiah, that John was sent by God to be a messenger to prepare the way for Jesus. And he ended up baptizing Jesus, and he saw the whole thing happen when Jesus was baptized and the heavens opened up. And so I just think it's kind of interesting that in prison, John asks Jesus if he is the real deal. Art thou he that should come, or do we look for another? And that he knew that he was on Jesus' side whether or not. He's just asking, okay, are you it, or are we waiting for someone else? And then Jesus responds by just listing off his miracles, just letting his actions speak for themselves. And so another thing that happens in this chapter is Jesus's admiration for John the Baptist is made pretty clear. And it's also, I agree that John the Baptist is the fulfillment of Elijah. And I think that Jesus says it plainly. That's what in this chapter Jesus says, if you will receive it, that John the Baptist is Elijah. And I think he's just saying, if you're willing to accept what I'm telling you here, that John the Baptist is Elijah. And the reference for that is a very, very interesting book of the Bible, one of the most interesting in the Old Testament, in my opinion, Malachi chapter 4, verse 5. And I'm pretty sure that's the last book of the Old Testament. Maybe I'm wrong. It's very far towards the end of the Old Testament and a very interesting read. And it gets referenced in this chapter because Jesus is claiming that John the Baptist is Elijah. I guess it's just interesting to note at the beginning how it says that John the Baptist sent his disciples. I guess it's just an interesting thing to think about the time how John the Baptist had his own disciples, and then, so I guess after this, John probably they all were just considered disciples of Jesus after this point in time. I'm not entirely sure how that works. But one thing that does come up in this chapter and is related to the fact that John the Baptist had his own disciples is that John and Jesus are compared, and Jesus is saying, well, John the Baptist came neither eating nor drinking, and then he compares him to himself, and Jesus came eating and drinking, and the phonies, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, have an issue with it either way. And it's just an interesting distinction between the differences in John the Baptist and Jesus. They both accomplish similar things in very different ways, I guess is what I would say. And since this video is a little short, I'll just end talking about one subtle point that comes up here. And when the comparison's made between John the Baptist and Jesus, it's important that Jesus was seen as somebody who spent time with undesirables, and how they tried to paint Jesus in a bad light because of that. And how that's actually something that I really love and appreciate, finding out that this is a truth about Jesus, that Jesus didn't come to earth for all the most perfect people out there, people that are only the most perfect and live, what on the outside, put off this image of being perfect and never making any mistakes and straight edge life only. Those are not the people that Jesus came for. And Jesus came for the sinners, and it's an amazing gift that he didn't come for people that are perfect and don't have any issues. Because the thing is that that doesn't exist. And the last note is, I just think that this is a really beautiful chapter, so you can read it yourself or go back and listen to it again. The last 5 verses of Matthew chapter 11, just so much of Jesus's speeches are beautiful, beautiful writing, beautiful speech. And it always just makes me think of how much BS in school we were forced to read, and how the education system tries to pride itself on never talking about God, and never talking about, especially in America, never talking about Christianity, because that's apparently bad to talk about Christianity. But in public schools, they're allowed to talk about any other religion is fair game to talk about. But they can't even show parts of the Bible as just the literary masterpiece that it is. They can't even share that. And I think that that's on purpose, to keep people away from it, and to keep people from realizing that, like, why aren't we studying this? Because this is just, in my opinion, when you read a speech from Jesus, I'm just like, why why was I not reading this stuff in high school instead of Shakespeare? Like, Shakespeare has nothing on KJV. It just doesn't. And especially Jesus's speeches in particular, why do you not read this stuff in philosophy classes? It's a huge disservice. And I think it's just to keep people from finding God. They have to keep people thinking that, I mean, to kind of bring this back to when I briefly talked about Jesus didn't come for the Mary Sue perfect people. And I think that's another, they don't want people knowing that Jesus didn't come for those people, and that the Bible is actually really interesting and something worth studying, whether or not you even believe. And I think that they just do that because if everybody did study the Bible and everybody did study Jesus's words the same way that they studied Shakespeare, I think that they know that a lot of people would get into it. They'd be interested. I really don't think most people out there have read a lot of words that Jesus has said. And I think that a lot of people just have very superficial exposures to Christianity, and they think it's things that it's not. All right, that's enough of a rant. Hope you enjoyed the video. God bless everyone.